Hello and welcome. I'm Gary Allen and I'm here with Phil Smith. Phil and I are members of the Board of Directors of the Lee Historical Society, and we're here at the studios of CTSB for the grand opening of the Historical Society's Lee Veterans website. We'll show you a little bit of the website in the discussion that we have today and talk a little bit about how it came into being. The Lee Historical Society has a purpose of preserving, protecting, and presenting the history of the town of Lee. Bill Matthews, who's our president, suggested in the fall of 2021 that we start a project to collect information on Lee's veterans. We wanted to recognize them for their service and also just make information available about them. And we thought that would be a good subject, good topic to put on a website. So that's what we've been working on since the fall of 2021. In the website, we've been gathering information and making it available. And one of the main things about that website is that it's a work in progress. We've added and added to it as we did the work that we did, and we're finding there's even more things that we can add to it. And we would welcome more input from the community. You may have specific information about specific veterans. You may have an interesting story about a veteran that's special to you. And we'd be happy to have that kind of material on the website. And we should have a chance here in the next half hour or so to show you a few of the things that we've got and that we're thinking of. So that's the general concept of the website, make information about the veterans public. And I'd like Phil to talk a little bit about how we started out with that part of the project.
Sure, Gary. When Bill Matthews proposed the grant, one of the first things he was looking for was someone who would walk through the 3 cemeteries in Lee and attempt to record as much information as we could from graveside markers and so on in our 3 cemeteries. And I guess I was the only one who actually volunteered to do that. I like to walk a lot anyway, so I figured why not just walk through the cemeteries and carry a clipboard. But it was much more difficult than I expected. In many places, grass had to be cut away. I had to practically shovel away dirt off of some of the markers. And I actually began around the middle of September last year, and by October, the leaves falling off the trees were obscuring the view of many of the plaques in the ground and so on. So I guess that was my signal to stop. But by that time, I had actually covered and looked at every gravesite in Lee and collected the names of somewhere between 900 and 1,100 veterans at that point, and collected as much information as I could from gravesite at that point. We went on to expand that. At first, we were talking just about the veterans' graves that were in Lee, and later we expanded that to all Lee veterans and began looking in public information sources about other people from Lee who were buried elsewhere or not buried in Lee, and living veterans also. In fact, as you look at this program, you're looking at 2 living veterans who are on our master list. So we got some tremendous help from a lady named Karen Norton, who's on our board of directors. Karen is a wonderful researcher. She does a great job, and she has helped prepare this master list. Believe me, she deserves as much credit or more than I do, but she declined to come on camera, so we'll just have to give her credit from a distance.
When Phil says he walked through the cemeteries, he's kind of stepping over the part where he wrote everything down. So he's got pages and pages and pages of records from when he collected in the graves. And I want to break in here. We can show you the website. It's going to actually show up on the screen of the show. This is the website. This is the home page. And you can see that we've put together the website to recognize the veterans and what they've contributed to all of us. And also, this is a publicly available finding tool. There's a lot of information about our veterans here, and you'll see as we go on in the show a little bit farther some of the things that we've actually got here. So I'm just going to talk for a minute, and we'll take the slide down.
Gary, while that slide is up there, do you want to point out to people where they can send additional information after they look at the list, which is right up there on the screen now?
Yep, that's a very good point. When you're at the homepage of the website, we've listed a place to send more information. There's an email address that you can send the information, and there's also, you can send mail to the Historical Society. So if you get interested in the veterans and you take a look at the website, you'll be able to record those two addresses, and then you'll know where to send things. When Phil and I were working on this, as he says, he and I realized he and I are both veterans. And so we took another tact, and that was to talk to other veterans. Doug Mann is the Lee veterans agent, and he has some information about Lee veterans. And we also got in touch with Dennis Zeininger. Dennis is the commander of the VFW, and he had additional information about living veterans. So we think we've done a reasonably good job of all the people that are permanently placed in the cemetery and all the people that are still walking around, us living veterans. We think we've got a pretty good sense of who all those people are. And if you're interested, when you look at the list, it's now at 2,280 names. And Phil and I were talking before we went on camera. He's got more to add. So we're going to have perhaps 2,300 listed people on the website. One of the other things you'll notice on the website, there's a link to the VFW website. So if you're interested in the VFW information, that's there in the bottom right-hand corner. And there's another link which is to the Historical Society's website, where we have more general information about the town. Let's take just a minute. This is the table of contents for the website. And you can see here we have a master list. That's a very simple list, just the names. And it will tell you who it is that we know about. And from there, you can go to the second point. We've got details about those people. And let me just take a quick look at this. We took the lists that Phil had put together and the list of all the names that we had, and we put that into something called, what we called the matched list. And here's the matched list, and I recognize it as probably relatively hard to see this, but you can see for any one person, we have a lot of information: birth dates, death dates, which part of the service they were in. In some cases, we know their rank. In some cases, we know the unit that they were with. We've divided them up into conflicts, which is kind of an interesting thing. How do you describe the period after the Korean War? And how do you describe the things that have happened in East Asia and in the Gulf Coast? If we go back for just another second onto the website, the other thing I want to show you, if you're a good website operator, Well, I'm trying to go backwards and I'm not doing it. Well, let's not fool around with Gary fumbling through the website. When you get there, you'll be able to navigate quite a lot easier than I'm doing here now. So we have the names, the basic information. And if you're wondering, I served on a ship in the Navy. You may be able to find other people who served on that same ship. I remember the Enterprise, the USS Enterprise, is one of the ships that was listed. Another thing about the website, there were, I think, 2 different Lee veterans who served in the Navy, and they both happened to be on the same ship that was sunk. So they were both lost during the war. But you can make connections like that, who served in the same units, who served on the same ships. We tried to particularly point out Gold Star veterans, and let me ask Phil to explain what the Gold Star is.
Yeah, as probably most of you know, the Memorial Hall in Lee is dedicated to the veterans, the Civil War veterans who died in service. 38 of them, and think about that, a little town of fewer than 3,000 people at the time who lost 38 soldiers and sailors during the Civil War. And so the Gold Star is about those who died in service. And there are many of them. Obviously, the Civil War was the worst of the bunch. But we're actually now in the process of collecting additional information about Gold Star veterans from Lee. And there are many more, World War I, World War II, Korea, and Vietnam, unfortunately. And we have been fortunate that there were no fatalities from Lee from the Gulf War or from subsequent events in the Middle East. But there are some fascinating stories, certainly. Every one of those veterans in the cemetery, there's a story to be told about how that affected their lives. And we have some fascinating people up there. There are 2 generals buried at Fairmount Cemetery, which you may or may not know. There are others who were Medal of Honor. There was a Medal of Honor winner from Lee. He's not buried in Lee. He's buried in Hinsdale, New Hampshire. But many, many award winners, 2 Silver Star winners, Distinguished Service Award, Bronze Stars, many, many fascinating stories of veterans from Lee. And we'd encourage you to take a look at the website. And we'll be talking later about a little bit more about an exhibit that's coming up that will provide some additional information to the public.
And one of the things that you can do about the website, Phil mentioned the Congressional Medal of Honor, Silver Star, Bronze Star. We tried to make a note of those on the website, but one of the things that we know we have to do, we've got to put something on the website that explains what all those different medals mean. The Congressional Medal of Honor is the highest award, and I believe the Silver Star is the second highest award. But that's something that you may recognize when you go out and look at the website, and you may say to yourself, I wish I knew more about this. If you'll feed that information back to us, we'll do our best to make additional information available on the website so that all of this will be clear. One of the other things that I can show you on the website, memorials. There are any number of memorials around town. The James Burt Memorial site is right next to the Lee Library, and there's something there about James Burt, the Congressional Medal of Honor winner.
It's a great distinction, Gary, for a small town like Lee to have a Medal of Honor winner. There are only about 3,500 or 3,600 medals of honor in all of history, all of American history. And so it's an award that is well earned, and people don't just get that handed to them every day. That's a wonderful thing for a town like Lee, something we should be very proud of.
Yes, we should be. And this is one of the things in the park. There are 5 benches where you can sit in the park and enjoy a little of the good air. And each of those benches has a plaque to one of the Lee veterans. And so that's included on the website, so you can view that when you go to the website. Another thing to mention, you know, we talked about James Burt, the Congressional Medal of Honor winner. There are links on the website to both himself and to the list of all the folks who have won the Congressional Medal of Honor. So one of the things we tried to do with the website is not only collect information ourselves and information that would be specific to Lee, but also to make available through the website other sources of information. If you've been in the Memorial Hall, you know there's plaques in the Memorial Hall, 3 plaques on the wall. Well, we have pictures of those plaques on the website. And we also have a straight listing of just who those people on the plaques were. So we've done different kinds of things. We've taken the pictures, we've made links to other websites and other sources, and we've made the lists of our own. There is a bibliography that's on the website, and that's basically, we mentioned Karen Norton. Karen Norton did a lot of the research, and these are the sources that she went to find them. And it's really quite interesting. There must be a dozen different sources, listings of sailors in the Second World War, listings of people who served during the Civil War. There's any number of lists that are out there that it would be interesting to consult. There's even one, Mal Eckert. A lot of you will recognize Mal's name. Mal was the president of the Historical Society for a good time. Mal wrote the first list of veterans, and we actually have his original list. What he wrote is more stories about a selected number of people, and they're interesting to read. There's really quite a lot of stories and general information out on the website, along with the specific lists of things. But probably the most important thing for us to say here now is, you know, we look for corrections, additions, things that you'd like to see on that website, things that you'd like to make available. Several people have already sent in stories of their relatives and their service. Some of it's heartbreaking to hear the stories. Some of it's uplifting to hear the stories. But all of these veterans, you know, we owe them a great deal for their service. And we're glad that a lot of them survived. Phil and I particularly are glad we survived our experience. So the website is there. We hope you'll take advantage of it. And as we say, we wanted to recognize the service of the veterans, and we wanted to make information publicly available. There's one thing a little bit unusual. We'll put some information in the show that we're going to have CTSB project, which is the website name. It's something called www, like all of them, Lee Veterans, which is obvious, homesteadcloud.com. Homestead is a company that hosts websites, and I use the software that they have to create the website. So you might have a little bit of difficulty finding leeveterans.homestead.com, but it's much easier to find the Lee Historical Society website, and you can get easily from the Lee Historical website to this website. And also, if you're interested in the VFW information, there's a link there. Their website is also quite interesting, and it has some different information about veterans. So once again, write or email to the address that's on the homepage, and we'll be happy to add more information and correct anything that we may have wrong. I want to thank CTSB. CTSB has made it possible for us to put this show together. And they have an archive here at CTSB. And I'm going to ask Phil to talk for a minute about a couple of things that are in that archive.
Yeah, two past shows that have been done in very recent years for the Lee Historical Society. In 2019, we had a show at the Lee Library called Rock Stars and Paper Tigers. It's a little witty way of looking at those who worked in the quarries and those who worked in the paper mills. And we were honoring the history, the industrial history of Lee, which is really a very fascinating and wonderful history to the town, its industrial era. And more recently, last year in July, we did a show called Lee Earns a Living, and that was recorded and is available on both YouTube and on in the archive here at CTSB. And we had a great time doing those. Those shows were very, very well received. We don't have any exact way of knowing how many, but we had many, many people come to visit them. And we will be doing an additional show on the veterans. We actually are expanding this, and we're going to an exhibit which will feature all of the veterans that will be in July this year at the Lee Library, at the gallery at Lee Library. And that overall exhibit will be called Lee Answers the Call, talking about how Lee historically has shown up when the nation needed it, and our men and women, our soldiers, have enlisted and gone off to do whatever was necessary for the nation. So we're looking forward to that show. It will feature a veterans wall, which will be over 30 feet long, with the names of all of the people who are on our master list right now. And that's going to be it's going to take up, as I said, 30 feet of wall space in the gallery, which is about half the wall space in there. The rest of the exhibit in there, it will deal with the decorated soldiers, sailors, and airmen of Lee who were decorated, won awards and ribbons and so on. We will also have a section called Eyewitness to History, which will talk about some of the historic moments where Lee personnel were at, historic moments in history. We also will have some Civil War profiles, those that Gary talked about before, that were done by Mal Eckert. We'll have a section on women in uniform. Don't forget that also among the veterans are women, and we have probably 50 or 60 perhaps women who will be on our wall, and some who received high rankings, moved up to lieutenant colonel and a major from Lee, and some wonderful stories about the women who served. And there'll be a section called Rank Has Its Privileges, which will talk about the high-ranking officers from Lee. I mentioned before that there were 2 generals. There are also many colonels, lieutenant colonels, majors, other high-ranking officers. Unfortunately, we cut it off at major, and Gary was a captain, otherwise he'd be in that section. You know, I was just an ordinary enlisted man who left the service with 3 stripes from the United States Air Force. But I'm very proud of that service nonetheless, which started when I was 17 years old. So well, you can guess that's a long time ago.
Quite frankly, I was just an ordinary officer too. There's a lot of us that were in the service and did our thing. And we're absolutely delighted to make this information public. You know, one of our purposes was to recognize the service of the veterans. We all very much appreciate what they have contributed. And I do hope you'll go out and visit the website. Phil and I found, just reading through all this stuff, there's a lot of information, and you get just fascinated with it. You could spend time and time and time. There's a lot of interesting pictures. There are a few interesting stories. And we think you'll enjoy the website as well as you'll be able to make use of it and the information sources that are there. So
You might,
I want
I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
Kerr, but you might also encourage people to go take a walk in the cemeteries. Look under those flags and look at all of those men and women who served and did so much for this country.
So I want to thank the Lee Historical Society. Phil and I are on the board. There's a lot of other members of the Historical Society. Actually, a lot of them made contributions to this too. Karen and Phil have done the most of the work, but all the members of the society supported this, and some of them made contributions. And the last thank you is to CTSB. We're grateful that they've put this together, and we're also happy about the archive that exists here at CTSB, where the shows that we produced and created earlier are still available. So again, welcome to the grand opening of the Lee Veterans website. We hope you'll enjoy it, and we hope that the veterans will appreciate the recognition that they deserve from the website. Thank you all very much for joining us.